Welcome to Power Players, the show that takes you inside the boardroom with the CEOs, visionaries, and deal makers shaping the future of business. From behind closed-door strategy to billion-dollar moves, we break it all down. In 2025, the auto industry finds itself at a crossroads, with global sales inching upward, even as regional markets face pressure from issues like interest rates and trade policies. GMC is one company in particular that is riding high after a record-breaking year and is setting its sights on even bigger milestones as we head into 2026. The brand is expanding globally, ramping up its electric vehicle strategy and continuing to grow fan-favorite lines like the Denali and the AT4. With innovation and momentum on its side, GMC is gearing up for what could be its biggest year yet. Cheddar recently spoke to Jaclyn McQuaid, GMC's global vice president, to talk more about the company's success and future expansion.
2024 was a record-breaking year for GMC. Sales grew 10% year over year from 2023, and we had our best share year ever. 2025, we're on track to even beat that record with another 10% rise in sales over 2024, and a lot of record-breaking ahead of us. So it's pretty exciting to be with a 100-year-old American company and be able to say that.
All right, and what do you attribute the sales growth to?
I think it's a couple things. I think first, it's really this very unique brand positioning that GMC has. We're the only truly premium truck and SUV brand on the market, and customers are responding to that. Added to that is really the strength and breadth of the product portfolio that GMC has. So whatever a customer is looking for in the premium truck and SUV space, whether it's a compact, fuel-efficient SUV like the GMC Terrain, whether it's a full-size flagship SUV like the GMC Yukon, whether it's the best pickup truck on the market with the GMC Sierra, or whether it's the EV super truck like the Hummer, we have that product available.
And you've been with GM for almost 27 years. You spent a large majority of that as an engineer, and then you you were president in Europe. And how has your experience globally shaped your role now?
Well, I've had so many different experiences through the company, and I find that each one gets added to the one before and really helps to make me someone who looks at the company very holistically. So I spent quite a lot of time in engineering, as you said, actually running our truck division as a chief engineer and then an executive chief engineer. And then I spent 2 years as a president of GM Europe. And what that really allowed me to do was look at the business from a completely different perspective. We wanted to enter Europe in a different way than how we had traditionally been running businesses. And we effectively had a blank sheet of paper and this approach of a very entrepreneurial kind of startup mentality as we decided how are we going to go to market and work with our customers in a different way. What I've done as I've come to lead GMC is really bring that entrepreneurial spirit to the team here at GMC and really ask them and challenge them to rethink how we approach the customer experience, how we approach our go-to-market strategy, make sure we're really understanding what the customer wants and meeting them where they are.
All right, and what does the customer want?
The customer wants choice. The customer wants to decide what's best for him or her. And that's what GMC offers. GMC offers a broad range of options in both the gas and diesel powered space, as well as in the electric vehicle space. In fact, we're the only brand that has 3 EV trucks that we offer, each targeting a very unique customer. And so if a customer is interested in anything in the premium truck or SUV space, GMC has that for them.
You say you're a luxe brand without all the glitz. What does that mean?
It means that we are for the customer that wants that premium, high quality, craftsmanship, precision, performance, but they don't want the pretenses. They want to be understated. They want to just be quietly luxurious. And as we look at some of the high-end trims that we do, getting into the Denali Ultimate and the AT4 Ultimate, those really are luxurious vehicles, but somewhat understated, and it's a quiet kind of luxury.
Can you walk us through GMC's EV strategy and how that fits into the company's long-term goals?
Well, GMC EV strategy is continuing to grow and continuing to strengthen. We had a record EV sales month in September. That was on top of a record EV sales month in August, which was on top of a record EV sales month in July. So we are really gaining some strong momentum in the EV space. And it's because we have this 3 EV truck strategy that no other brand has. So between the Hummer EV SUV, the Hummer EV pickup, and then the Sierra EV pickup truck, we have an EV truck for anybody, and that's really resonating with our customers.
And I understand that the Denali and AT4 brands have been extremely successful with customers also. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yeah, so a decade ago, we were selling maybe 20% of our products in that highest end trim. Today, we're over 50% of our products are being sold in that high-end trim. Customers are really finding value in the high-end trims of the AT4 and Denali because it brings with it this extremely high level of craftsmanship, material selection that they're really resonating with and that they're selecting. We're also seeing that expanding into our global market. So we've had record-breaking years in our global markets, our established markets of Canada, Mexico, and the Middle East. And then over the last 18 months, we've grown more into global markets in Australia, New Zealand, and Korea. So GMC is truly becoming this global brand, and customers around the world are resonating with Denali and AT4. It's really exciting to see we're taking the best of the US to the world.
Where do you see GMC in 5 years?
Well, I see GMC continuing to grow. I see GMC continuing to innovate, continuing to be on the leading edge of technology. Not innovation for innovation's sake, though. Innovation that matters to the customer. Innovation that customers find value in. Think of our multi-pro tailgate or our transparent trailer where you can literally see through a trailer you're towing with the cameras. Think of Super Cruise, the industry's best hands-free driving technology. Innovation to the benefit of our customers. And as GMC continues to do that, and candidly, I would say innovation is in GMC's DNA, we're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to bring more customers to GMC.
All right, Jaclyn McQuaid, GMC's Global Vice President, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
The role of executive assistants is no longer limited to the C-suite. As AI tools reshape how we work and the line between personal and professional life gets blurrier, more everyday professionals are turning to personal assistants for help managing it all. From scheduling to travel planning, these human helpers are becoming essential in ways tech can't quite match. Recently, I spoke with Wall Street Journal columnist Callum Borchers about this trending topic as we try to figure out why the demand for real-life support is rising. So first and foremost, what do you think it says about modern work culture that maybe more traditional, more ordinary workers now feel that they too need executive assistance simply to stay afloat?
Yeah, a couple things are going on here. I mean, one is that fewer and fewer people get an executive assistant to go with their jobs. I mean, 25 years ago, there was about 1.5 million, EAs working in the US. Now there's less than 500,000. So there are more jobs that traditionally used to have some assistance that it's sort of like, hey, figure it out by yourself. And of course, we're all stretched thin. We got so many things going on, work, school, kids, it's hard to keep it all straight. And you find folks who are sort of hacking the system, I think. They've figured out that apparently you don't need to be an executive to hire your own EA.
What are the sorts of tasks and go-to responsibilities from your reporting you're seeing people need these sorts of positions or a bit of extra help on the edges for?
Yeah, calendar management is a big one, right? I mean, you get so many emails and some of it's kind of messy stuff. I mean, an example might be for your children, right? They come home, they're still communicating with the take-home folder. The bake sale flyer comes in paper form. There are some tools now. This is where the AI comes in. You can actually just snap a photo of that piece of paper and it can turn it into a nice, neat calendar entry for you to help keep things straight. It's sort of saving time around the edges. I mean, I spoke with a woman, for example, who uses a human executive assistant to, make phone calls to things like the pediatrician's office or the insurance company. And she'll just patch the parent in, for the last moment when you need a social security number or something that's kind of sensitive. But saving that time on hold, with the insurance company or something, some people find great value in that.
Callum, I got to be honest, man. At the number of times in my career, the busier I've gotten, more television shows I host, this and that, I sit there and I say, wait a minute, for all the little, like the housekeeping things and to file all my expenses as a freelancer, I would love an assistant of some kind. So I certainly understand. I feel like that's probably the sentiment in today's chaotic world that a lot of people told you as well. But I wonder how much of this shift you think is driven from the fact that there are so many new AI tools taking headlines that look interesting to try versus just the desire to find a little bit of peace and calm in a chaotic world.
AI is a big factor here for two reasons. I mean, one, it makes these kinds of assistants available for relatively cheap money for just about anybody, right? I mean, so I spoke with the founder of a company called Ojai that makes an AI assistant that, the subscription's anywhere from 10 to maybe $30 a month, depending on the size of your family. So that's within the budget for a lot of households. And it does some things like integrating with your Instacart app, right? So maybe you could prompt the AI for meal plans for the week and then tell it to order all the ingredients that you need through Instacart. On the higher end, though, AI, because it's replaced some of the human assistants, there is still maybe more old school folks who say, I really still want that human help, but I'm being told by my company to just use this AI, assistant instead. I want my own. And so that's where we see people kind of on their own dime hiring part-time human assistants to help them out, sometimes doing it above board and sometimes kind of doing it on the sly. I heard from some folks who said, hey, I've got this on the down low. My job doesn't really know that I have this person working for me part-time to help manage tasks.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me. How about from the flip side? What does your reporting tell you about the willingness of people to accept roles like that? I mean, I feel like a big storyline the last several years, maybe helped along by the pandemic, is the kind of gig economy and the freelance future where people can more pick and choose as opposed to having one big time job. I'd imagine for the part timers out there, something like this might kind of fit into what they're already looking for.
Yeah, no question. I mean, for folks, you have to be very type A, very organized because most of these part-time EAs or fractional EAs, as they call themselves, they're working with, multiple clients, right? So you got to make sure that you don't mix up one person's appointment with somebody else's. But look, these are largely remote roles, right? So that's really appealing for a lot of folks. And it's the kind of thing that often you can do on off hours, right? Because so many of the people that you're working for, they're sort of managing their work tasks during the 9 to 5. It's the stuff after hours or before hours. So if that's something that fits into your schedule, yeah, I think it's something that you should give some consideration.
Do you see this as more of a temporary trend, or could you see this as the start of something bigger, kind of what the middle class luxury so-called lifestyle sort of looks like for the near-term future?
At least in the short run, I think it's something that will continue to grow because folks do feel kind of overwhelmed. And for folks who are high earners, I mean, for example, one of the services I explored is called Sundays. And so, they're talking about fractional human assistants that you're paying $50, $60 an hour, but you have subscription plans starting as low as, 5 hours a month, right? So if you're somebody who says, okay, I'm not ready for a big commitment, I'm not ready to put in thousands of dollars a month for this person. If you have maybe a few $100s a month, it's the kind of thing that you could work into the budget if you find it worthwhile. And so I think that's the big thing, right? I mean, we're all familiar with the classic virtual assistant. A lot of businesses have moved that direction to save a buck, maybe 20 hours a week for their executive instead of a full-time person who's in the office. This is kind of the next iteration of that, going even smaller, going straight to the rank and file worker and doing it at a much smaller budget item.
I also want to ask you about another story that your byline was on for the Wall Street Journal. The headline is, in a sea of tech talent, companies cannot find the workers they want. How did we end up with the state of tech talent that we have today, which maybe is not particularly the right kind for the right people?
Well, we got here because we saw a huge boom in tech degrees for one thing. I mean, in the last decade or so, we've more than doubled the number of computer science degrees awarded in the U.S. And then all of a sudden, you had a lot of the big companies that were so hungry for talent, the Metas, the Amazons, the Googles, they started laying people off in the last few years. And meanwhile, our Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates there will actually be fewer computer programmers working, a decade from now than there are today. So with all of that, you've got tons of tech talent available for hire. And yet, as you rightly point out, it's not necessarily exactly what businesses are looking for. Largely now, they're looking for AI specialists. And those are kind of hard to find. We're not talking about the people who, are savvy with ChatGPT or know how to use Gemini. We're talking about the people who really have deep expertise in machine learning. And, it's a new enough technology that, I'm told by some of these AI CEOs that, we're talking about hundreds, not thousands, not tens of thousands, hundreds of people in the whole world who really have this special touch when it comes to training these machine learning tools. And so some of those folks are in super high demand and companies will pay through the nose for them. And unfortunately, for a lot of other folks, they're viewed as a dime a dozen.
Could you define the state of the so-called AI talent arms race? And what does it mean for, let's say, mid-career workers, people who may risk being left behind?
I'd say what it's created is a real schism between the haves and have-nots. The folks who are seen as being really AI savvy can really kind of write their own check. I mean, you look around, you don't have to look far. Look at any of these job boards, you see $400,000 or $500,000 salaries being offered for some of these AI roles, and that's on top of equity and bonus in some cases. So if you can get one of the, it's good work, right? If you can get it. But for other folks, I mean, I spoke with somebody, for example, who just got laid off after 25 years at Adobe. So that mid-career type you were just talking about, really nice resume, who sort of always thought that, working for a name brand like that would make him a desirable candidate if he ever hit the job market, or at least get him into interviews where he could explain how it's worked. But he told me that he's only had one interview since he got laid off this summer. And he's beginning to wonder, is there still a place for me in the tech landscape? He was not an AI early adopter. And the other factor here too is the demands on people's time. Because some of these companies are really straining for efficiency and they're downsizing, they can really kind of drive their workers hard. And so the notions of work-life balance are really kind of at risk for some of these folks. And so if that's something that's important to you too, you're sort of looking with a wary eye at the opportunities that do exist.
Fascinating shifting dynamics across the labor force, AI at the center of it. Callum Borchers, columnist at the Wall Street Journal. I encourage all of our viewers, head on over, check out any and all stories with Callum's byline on it. Excellent reporting. Thank you for joining us for The Context. Great to have you today.
Glad to be with you.
Smarsh is leading the way in responsible AI for financial compliance with a focus on transparency and regulatory readiness. With nearly a decade of experience, Smarsh is developing AI tools using client data to ensure real-world performance. Their proactive platform is built for scale, featuring real-time APIs and multilingual support for global institutions. In a world of regulatory uncertainty and AI hype, Smarsh is urging firms to dig deeper. We recently spoke to Patrick Palomo, Principal Solutions Architect at Smarsh. This segment was brought to you by our friends at Smarsh.
All right, we're here at Smarsh Edge with Patrick Palomo from Smarsh. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for joining us here.
Let's dive right in.
Sure.
So Smarsh emphasizes using responsible AI, right? So that's using AI models that are explainable to regulators. That's something that's so important to these financial institutions. So tell me, what does Smarsh do to kind of meet those needs and have that responsible AI?
Right. It's a great question. It's something that we learned in partnership with our customer base, having deployed AI in the compliance space for almost a decade now. It starts with, before we even make a choice on which algorithm to use, we think about some of the things that you mentioned. How interpretable is it? Can a human understand it? Is it deterministic? Is it scalable? Is it efficient to run? So we think about all those things before we even pick an algorithm, and then we document those things and make that transparent to our customer base. And right along with that will come questions about what training data sets do you use? Were there any gaps in those? So we package that up in actual formal documents that we can give to our customers so they have those in hand. So if they're in an internal, external audit and they have to answer that question, how do you know it's working? We have a number of ways to help them answer that question.
And when you are working with Wall Street, how do you not only manage risk for your clients, but also actually go so far as to try to predict some of it as well?
Sure. So we do so much research and development with our own R&D teams, but the partnership with our customers is so important when we're trying to get to that last mile of development, of getting something fit for production. So a great example of that, and our customers are hearing a lot about it, is our intelligent agent. So there's 3 parts to it, but for an example, we partnered with one of our customers to create an agent using an LLM that could mimic the behavior of a level 1 compliance analyst. That comes with a tremendous amount of efficiency for leaders in that space, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without the help and partnership of a customer using their real life production data and use cases.
And as a company that works with so many top financial institutions who are all thinking about all of these concerns, what do you think is the most significant unforeseen risk that comes with using AI within this whole landscape?
It's a great question. There's a lot of hype in the market right now about artificial intelligence or LLMs. I think if someone was asking me, frankly, I would just caution to make sure that you dig a little deeper. Some of the things we were talking about earlier, do you really understand the AI that you're buying or where that AI lives? Not everything needs to be powered by artificial intelligence. So just being thoughtful of how do you know what you're really buying and what you're using is really important, because you don't want to buy something that's low quality, hasn't been tested in the market, or isn't fit for a regulatory use case. And then, of course, you do want to understand how has that been developed and how has that been trained over time. So it is a cliche, but more relevant than ever, is garbage in, garbage out. So you don't want bad data can lead to bad outcomes. So that's a very important consideration.
And when you think about Smarsh's AI platform, how is that kind of changing from not just being reactive to actually being proactive for your clients?
So we've spent a tremendous amount of investment on making our platform not just easy to use, but extensible. So our API investments are a big part of that. It allows our customers to interact with data more real time and at speed. And in addition, we've invested a lot in multilingual capabilities. So historically, that's been a challenge for our customer base with a larger global footprint. How can we translate things into a different language for someone who's trying to work with that data? Or how do we follow up quickly and investigate to determine if there's something worthy of escalation? So just making that happen faster is a big part of trying to enable our customers to get on the front foot and be more proactive, as you put it.
And when you think about the new administration in Washington, obviously bringing so many different challenges with it, what is Smarsh doing, kind of thinking about what's happening in Washington for your clients here and around the world?
We do get that question a lot. We certainly are administration agnostic into how we inform the investments in our platform, and I think our customers are well aligned with that position as well. If you think about the amount of regulatory change the industry has seen since 2008 into 2012, whether it's in the US post-financial crisis or privacy regulation coming out of Brussels, our customers have gotten used to having to deal with, our largest customer, for example, has to deal with over 250 different regulators. That's more countries than there are in the world. So I think trying not to be led by individual administration changes is really important. So it's steady state, stay calm, and stick to your strategy.
That makes sense. And when you think about adopting any new technology, obviously there are going to be challenges along the way. What do you find are those biggest challenges, the biggest hardships when implementing a new technology, especially on top of some probably pretty old legacy systems that have been there for a while?
Right. I think our customers have really been investing a lot in data governance and the people and process and technology to support that data governance. So I spoke before about data completeness, accuracy, timeliness. That's so important. Some of our customers haven't thought about that in the context of digital comms. So it's not just about technology, it's about how do you manage that, break down silos between data, and have a more holistic view that enable so many different outcomes to come from those investments.
And lastly, if you had to give some advice to a chief compliance officer out there who's saying, we're going to start with AI right now, we don't even know where to begin, we have so much to think about and deal with, what is your top piece of advice that you'd say, all right, this is where you need to start?
That's a great question. I know that our customers are responsible for forming business cases that are both near-term and long-term. So my advice would be stay focused on the long term. We understand that you need to have quick wins, but be very thoughtful about what you build, be very thoughtful about what you buy and who you partner with, and build that really strong foundation. Just to use that analogy, if you're building a house, you wouldn't want to go too far without having a very strong foundation in place. So have that long-term view, have a very business-centric mindset when building those business cases that's focused on ROI.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure.